Smiley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Wednesday, May 18th. So we do have the moon moving out of Sagittarian energy and moving into Capricorn energy. Typically speaking, anytime this happens, we're moving out of the high and optimistic and big picture vision of Sagittarius and hitting that earth energy of Capricorn, where we got to come back down to earth. We got to get our to-do list out. We have to focus on what it is that we actually have control over, make a little bit of productivity in our realms, and definitely just keep our physical body consumed with tasks and chores so that we can avoid some of the thoughts and some of the feelings that have been very overwhelming as of late. We are still kind of lingering in that full moon lunar hangover effect, but for the most part, I feel like we are breaking free, like there has been a little bit of clarity, like the storm is definitely ready to pass, but now we got to get to work kind of cleaning up the odds and ends that the storm created in the front yard before we can actually focus on what it is that needs to be built, needs to be done from here. There are 13 different aspects here today, which does suggest a slightly busy day in the cosmos. 11 of them do involve the moon. The moon will be going void, of course, shortly after midnight, and we will be locking into that Capricorn energy around 8:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we are going to get the bulk of the day, the waking hours for many of us, down to earth, focused on what it is we actually have control over, what it is we actually need to do, bossing up to the roles and responsibilities that many of us have been running from. But first, while the moon is still in Sag energy, we are going to square off with Neptune. Square, of course, is a conflict. It's a tension point. Neptune, our higher self, our soul contracts, our dreams, our creativity. As you know, throughout this whole eclipse season, we've had a little bit of a disconnect from our higher selves and the higher realms of intelligence. And the moon in Sag, of course, wanting to see the big, bright picture of the future, we're having a hard time actually feeling good about some of the little bit of insights, the vision, the dreams that we've been having, because we don't have that gut reaction. We don't have that intuitional feel, if you will, backing up what it is that we've actually come to conclusion about. Now, the moon is going to sextile Saturn right before going void, of course, and Saturn, of course, rules over Capricorn energy. Saturn is currently in Aquarius energy, focusing in on the great big grand picture of the future, of our dream, of our goal, in order for us to recognize the roles and responsibilities that we currently have, our current commitments, and what it is that we need to switch up in the day-to-day, what we have to release, what we have to cut the cord with in order to get to work, building the bridge from where it is that we're at to where it is that we desire to be. The moon in Sag that has provided us with a little bit of clarity, with a little bit of hope and optimism, confidence that there is a greater, grander plan at play. Sextiling with Saturn right now is definitely a huge indication that we are going to gain a little bit of clarity. We are feeling a little bit better about some of the pieces that we just realized need to be let go. Of course, we just had that total lunar eclipse kind of stripping us away of the obstacles, the blocks, the challenges that are preventing us from moving forward. And emotionally speaking, we're ready to get to work. We're ready to take control over what it is that we actually have control over. We're sorting out our thoughts, sorting out our emotions, and really getting a little bit more focused on what it is that we have to do to build the new elements in our reality, to bridge the gap from where it is that we're at to where it is that we desire to be. So Mars is going to go ahead and conjunct, sit next to, bump into, team up with Neptune. So we spoke about this in the Ascension forecast for this week. If you haven't listened to it, I'm definitely going to recommend that you give it a listen. Even if you did listen to it, might not be a bad idea to give yourself a little bit of a refresher. But Mars, who is the god of war, who rules over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desire, even our anger if need be, is in Piscean energy. Neptune rules over Pisces. Neptune has been in Pisces for quite some time. Neptune, who rules over our higher self, our intuition, our dreams, our creativity, is kind of on the border, because we've been disconnected with our higher self, with that mystical realm of higher forms of intelligence, is on the border of really embracing the shadow aspects of what Neptune could definitely be, which is escapism, which is wanting to numb, turning to addiction, turning to just disconnecting from reality altogether. So as we talked about in the Ascension forecast, this can go one of two ways. I'm hoping that many of us align with the first way, because the first way would suggest that we are highly motivated, that we're highly inspired, that we finally feel like we have a glimpse of a dream, of a vision, of a goal, that we are feeling our gut, are feeling our intuition, getting signs and symbols from the cosmos that we are on the right track, that we're ready to do what is necessary in order to go after what it is that we want. Mars, of course, being in Pisces energy, is a little bit passive aggressive, which he does not prefer, and is also kind of excited to make any kind of initiation, any kind of step forward, any kind of identification, what it is that we're actually feeling passionate about, what it is that we actually feel inclined now to pursue. So that's the light and fluffy part of things, where we do get a dream, we do get insight, we do get highly motivated and inspired to go after a certain dream or vision. The downside to this is that, of course, we could get angry, we could get defensive, we could project outwardly the frustrations that we are holding inward. We could, of course, turn to drugs, turn to alcohol, any kind of other, addictive or numbing device. We could definitely create some drama where there doesn't need to be any drama. So we want to pay attention to our energy. We want to be consciously aware of the kind of triggers and activations that are taking place in our lives in order for us to have control over our actions, our motions, thoughts, and ideas. For many of us, coming back online with our intuition, with the higher realms of intelligence, is going to be a huge jolt in the most positive way. For others, we may feel that disconnect, that detachment, that confusion, that lack of clarity, the frustration, the aggression of it all, just so freaking intensely that we're just going to want to kind of bury our heads in the sand and disconnect from reality altogether. And worst case scenario, turn to old vices in order to actually get us through this very uncomfortable energy. Mars goes ahead and bumps into Saturn, which is really going to add another tough love life layer on here. Saturn, of course, tends to bring out negative Nancy and Debbie the Downer in order to kind of keep us in a state of paralysis. So for those of us that are riding high with the earlier aspect, we could see the wind get knocked out of our sail very, very early on. What we do know to be true is that Saturn always kind of serves us a little bit of a reality check. We are getting down to earth, especially as the moon, moves into this Capricorn energy, and getting down to earth means that we are overwhelmed with the physical circumstances that we have, with our commitments, with the roles and responsibilities that are literally just sucking the life out of us. And at this particular time, it is an opportunity for us to boss up. Now, whether we're going to boss up in a positive way, using our negative thoughts and emotions and experiences to motivate us and inspire us to move forward, or whether or not we are just going to move forward in a fit of rage, that is totally up to you. Again, another reason to be super cautious about the energy, the triggers, the activations at play, so that you have control on how this energy actually manifests. I do feel that we do have a perfect setup for us to be a little bit productive, for us to cross some things off of our list. But I will say this, sometimes it's because we need to throw ourselves into cleaning up our physical realms, the tasks, the chores that we've been avoiding. in order to avoid our thoughts and our feelings. And because we're coming out of eclipse energy, because we're still kind of on those full moon illumination vibes, many of us are feeling a whole hell of a lot, thinking a whole hell of a lot that we can't make sense of. So in this situation, it almost wouldn't be a bad thing for us to use our anger and frustration, our lack of control in our emotional and intellectual realms to force us into cleaning up our physical realms, our environment, to muster up the courage and the bravery to kind of grit our teeth and do what needs to be done in spite of whether or not we actually want to do it. The moon will be bumping into the sun, and anytime we have the moon bumping into the sun, it is an overlap between the old and the new, the past and the present, aka setting us up for the future. The moon, of course, is our emotions, our unconscious self, almost very much kind of too attached to the past, while the sun in Taurus is trying to illuminate for us where it is that new foundations need to be built, new routines need to be built, new relationship dynamics need to be a little bit, kind of strengthened and sorted out, new resources need to be acknowledged, new money matters need to be kind of figured out. But at the same time, this is very much putting us in an inner conflict, if you will, because our will, our determination, our time, our energy, our focus, which the sun represents, wants us to be focused on getting our hands dirty in the here and now, rolling up our sleeves, doing what we can, taking control over the aspects that we have to take control over to build these new foundations, while the moon is very much wrapped up, well, it's void, of course, chaos, instability, questioning things. We are no longer thinking big picture. We lost focus. We're losing optimism. We're losing a lot of steam that fire energy in Sag was kind of here to try and inspire us to take action with. And so this particular aspect is going to be a little bit choppy, a little bit wonky, but it is pushing us into a situation where we recognize what it is that we have to move away from and what it is that we have to move closer to. The moon, while still void, is going to bump into the true node in a very positive way. This is going to help us out a little bit because as we're kind of spiraling, as the uncertainty, the questions are coming up, now we're starting to piece together a little bit more of a logical, practical plan in moving forward, mostly based on what it is that we know is not coming with us. Again, we just had a full moon, should have illuminated, should have shown us different sides of the coin, different aspects, different elements of the people that we thought were going to be a part of our plan. We're still in this kind of eclipse energy, so we were at the mercy of the universe sorting out our path that we should have sorted out ourselves. Mostly, we recognized what was not coming with us, but recognizing what we don't want, what isn't going to happen, what isn't moving forward, does give us a little bit of clarity on what could happen, what is coming with us, what we are moving forward and towards. The moon will be bumping into Pluto, the great transformer. This is a beautiful opportunity for us to have a change of heart, a change of narrative, a change of perspective. Of course, Pluto is retrograde in Capricorn, trying to show us where we have to boss up, where it is that we have to stop giving our power away, where it is that we have to stop letting situations, experiences, pain, trauma, suffering, especially from the past, where we have to stop letting that dictate what is possible for us in the future. And of course, we have to wrap our head around it, then we can wrap our heart around it, then we can actually physically engage in our physical environment to sort out the pieces of what it is that we know to be true, what is coming with us, what isn't coming with us. And of course, when we have a total shift in paradigm and a total shift in emotion, that is an absolute game changer on us standing in our power, standing in authority, bossing up and preparing for this next chapter. The moon will be bumping into Uranus. This is the first aspect that the moon in Capricorn will be making. And of course, the Uranian energy is the great awakener, likes to shock us, likes to awe us, does that through disruption, through new information, through new changes coming through. Now, the moon in Capricorn, like I said, the moon in Capricorn is an earth energy. So we're very focused in our physical bodies on our physical realm. The Capricorn energy would prefer not to get caught up in emotions. Therefore, we throw ourselves in mundane tasks and chores in order to see productivity take place, because that's what makes us feel good. That's what makes us kind of feel stable again. So the moon in Capricorn kind of bumping into Uranus in this way, who is in Taurus, another earth energy, is likely going to throw a wrench in our plans and make it very hard for us to actually be as productive as we would like to be. Nonetheless, we're still going to steam ahead because we would rather, kind of spin around in circles in our daily life. Not really completing one task at a time, instead of sitting in the funk of our headspace and of our heart space that, quite frankly, we've been sitting in for far too long. What this is going to do is it is going to add a lot more anxiousness, a lot more restlessness, a lot more edginess to our emotional preset. We might have the jitters, even though we're trying to distract ourselves from certain thoughts and certain feelings. It's going to be hard. Although we want to see certain tasks be completed, we might have to do, 5 different things at once before we even see one thing get completed. Nonetheless, we are rolling with the punches because it is better to roll than be dragged. The moon, though, is going to square Jupiter. A square is a tension point. It's a conflict point. The moon in Capricorn going kind of head to head in the boxing ring of the astrology realm with Jupiter, who wants us to grow, who wants us to improve, who is fresh in Aries energy, wanting to start fresh, wanting to initiate something new, wanting to begin a new chapter, wanting to face the obstacles head on in order to overcome and actually end up in a place where we get what we want, what we need, what we desire. The problem here is that the moon in Capricorn needs to be methodical and practical and logical, and has a huge list of things that need to be cleaned up emotionally, mentally, and in our physical form before we can go ahead and jump into something new. So it's almost like Jupiter, who is in this Aries energy, all fired up, ready to go, wanting new experiences, wanting to push forward, gets in this inner conflict because, technically speaking, we have to be mature about it. We know at this particular time that what we are jumping into, what new chapters, new contracts, new projects, new lessons that we're jumping into, we need to do it in the right way. And many of us have too much residual emotion and mental work to be done to start anything new as of yet. So we are kind of in this conflict. But what we do know to be true is that a square provides us the conflict, provides us the tension point in order for us to see what needs to change first. So out of this little cluster F of emotion of feeling like we want to jump into something new, but that would mean that we would have to abandon the old tasks and chores that really should get done before we jump into something new, we're going to have this inner conflict. But through this tug of war, we are going to clearly define what needs to be at the top of the list, what needs to be addressed first and foremost. The moon is going to bump into Mercury, though, in not the nicest way. This is I'm going to say, semi-problematic area because, of course, Mercury is retrograde in Gemini energy, its place of power. So we are very much at odds between our heart and our head. We are very much debating 2 different choices, 2 different decisions, 2 different paths. And like we just explored with the moon squaring Jupiter, we are kind of being faced with 2 choices. Do we abandon the tasks and the chores, the roles and responsibilities, the projects, the emotions, the thoughts that need to be cleaned up and rectified before we can move forward? Or do we abandon all that and jump into something new? Right? That's the tug of war that the moon squaring Jupiter presented us with. So now Mercury is here, and Mercury, I gotta say, is going to help us really focus on what needs to be cleaned up first. And the reason why I say that is because Mercury is retrograde. We have to reflect. We have to revise. We have to revisit. We have to re-edit. We have to reorganize, restructure, you know? So this is a learning opportunity for us to kind of step into our power, get real, get down to earth, boss up and say, okay, listen, as excited as we are to move forward, as excited as we are to be done with the past chaos and emotion and mental anguish of the past, we want to do things right. And in order for us to do things right, for us to start fresh, for us to have a clean slate, we got to clean up the details of the past. So this is definitely going to be a little bit of a tug of war between our heart and our head, because of course the moon is our heart space, our emotions, our unconscious self. Mercury rules over the mental plane, the way that we are bringing in information, the way that we perceive our environment, the way that we come up with ideas, thoughts, and how, again, we go and communicate that and express that outwardly. Right now, we have a very long list of items that we need to clean up emotionally, mentally, and our physical realm before we can jump in to this brand new experience that is definitely calling out our name. The moon is going to bump into the sun, this time in a harmonious aspect, and this time we have the earth energies in common. So the moon is in Capricorn, that's an earth energy. The sun is in Taurus, that's an earth energy, which means that we are definitely focused on the physical realm. Now, Taurus season is coming to a close this week. Gemini season is just a couple of days away. Many of us did not roll up our sleeves. We did not get dirty. We did not get to work in bringing to life certain foundations that we know we have to implement, create, give birth to before we can actually have a foundation for our dreams to be built upon. This particular energy is going to give us a lot of clarity, a lot of logic, a lot of practicality, diving deep into what it is that needs to be addressed first and foremost. Many of our relationships have been popping off. That might be the very first place to go for many of us. Many of us have had our self-esteem, our self-confidence just absolutely triggered and activated. That might be the first area of concern for many people. What we have to kind of understand is that we got to get a grip. We are in this earth energy emotionally and mentally, and we have to understand in this particular point in time what we have to get a grip on, what we have to build, what we have to create, what is actually on our to-do list. That sun energy wants to illuminate for us what is broken, what is uncertain, what is unstable, what is extreme, in order for us to build a framework on where it is that we can provide safety, provide stability, provide a little bit more of a grounding point, a little bit more of a focus for our energy and attention. So now that the moon is in Capricorn, looking to be emotionally productive, sorting through our thoughts and feelings in order to get on the same page and actually see ourselves move forward, we're definitely going to gain a lot of clarity. The moon goes ahead and bumps into the true node in not the nicest way. Now, this is, I'm not going to say a huge factor because I don't think it is a huge factor. Here's what I will speak on. The true node wants to show us our soul's path moving forward. It's very much a destiny point. It's also a futuristic point. That's where the conflict arises. The moon in Capricorn isn't concerned with the past, isn't concerned with the future. We're focused on the here and now. So the conflict that arises when the moon actually bumps into the true node is that we are trying so freaking hard just to concentrate on what needs to be done in the here and now that we don't want to allow ourselves to think about the vision, the dream, the goal, and moving forward. It's a hard thing to do because the Capricorn energy really does want to think long term, but right now we have too much on our plate emotionally, mentally, mentally and in our physical realm to even consider adding to it. So this is kind of the tug of war that we're going to go through, because of course the true node wants to get us on the right path, and there's nothing wrong with getting on the right path. However, we have to kind of lose ourselves into dreamland, into la la land, into imaginary land in order for us to gain that vision, to gain that dream, to gain that goal, in order for us to break it down into small manageable pieces so that we can get to work on it in the here and now. The problem with that is that the moon in Capricorn, focused on the here and now, is more focused on cleaning up the elements of the past that are preventing us from actually moving forward. We're going to wrap the day up with the moon bumping into Mercury once again. This time it's a positive aspect. This is going to work in our favor because the moon in Capricorn is our heart space, our emotions, our unconscious, attached very much to the past. Mercury is our mental plane, our head space, in a retrograde, in its place of power in Gemini. So now it's kind of like we are sorting through our mental plane. We are sorting through the tasks and chores. We are sorting through our emotions, even though the moon in Capricorn doesn't want us to focus on that. What we are focused on is creating lists. The to-do list is going to be our best friend, our main focus on what it is that is causing us the most kerfuffle in our life, preventing us from actually taking steps moving forward. That needs to be at the top of the list. Overall, I feel like this particular aspect is going to help us clearly define what needs our attention in the here and now. What do we have control over in the here and now? What do we have to revisit, review, revise, rewrite in the here and now in order for us to get a grip, not only cleaning up the past, but making sure that we're standing in a very clean, solid state in the here and now so that we can get focused, get to work, actually bring some of the elements from our futuristic path, from our dream, from our vision to life. Again, Capricorn energy, Taurus energy is the manifestors of the zodiac. Earth energy is our friend when it means bringing new elements to life. We just needed a little bit of time to get clear on what needed our attention first and foremost.